Hello. And we're dead on time. So hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of The Long Run, which is brought to you by the 40 Runs running community and sponsored by our lovely friends at Skechers. So tonight I'm super privileged actually to be able to host this week's show, which is going to focus on all things that affect female and women runners. Don't worry, the usual suspects will be back next week with mental health expert and psychoanalyst Gary Lane, which is going to be amazing actually. So a couple of bits of business, obviously. Firstly, thank you to our friends at Skechers who are sponsoring the show. We've also got our 10% off code at Start Fitness. So if you just enter 40 runs at the checkout, you get 10% off, which is brilliant. And also the National Running Show, which is in January in Birmingham. So we will be there, we're going to have a stand, and we will give you future updates on what's happening there as well. But use code 40runs for your free tickets. And also, before I forget, if you are listening or tuned in on Facebook, please click on the link that Toby should have posted and should pop up so that we can see your names. It just means that we can give you a shout out as you comment and post. So an evening for everyone that's already started commenting, and to Ray who's there from California. So lovely to see you. So tonight I am joined by the lovely bushy hero Mel House, Gemma, who is one of our satellite originals, I think, down in Broxbourne, and first timer on the show. So welcome, Gemma, and first time London marathoner Abby, who you will have seen, and then obviously myself. I'm Sabrina Ahmed, and you may know me otherwise as admin, as you often hear shouted out on some of the videos and clips. So, ladies, how are we all doing?
Good. Yeah, great. Really well.
Yeah, and Abby, how are you? How's marathon training going?
Yeah, it's good. Sort of slight stumble this week. I've got my first sort of small injury, but I think we're good. Bit of rest, and I'll be back in it, getting used to the long runs now. So
yeah, and how far have you got to on your long runs?
I did 24 kilometers on Tuesday. So I need to do a bit more, but we're getting there. First time going over half marathon the last couple of runs. So
yeah. And Gemma, how many marathons have you done actually? You could probably offer up.
So I've done 12 now. Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
I'm toying with retiring, but we know that never lasts. So yeah. We'll see. We shall see.
Great. And Mel, how are you doing? You've been travelling, haven't you, this last few weeks?
Yeah. I did a little pop up to the Northeast 4D satellite group last week. They very kindly had their run in South Shields where we were up on holiday. So we joined all of them for a little run on the Wednesday evening. So if anyone's out on holiday in the Northeast anytime, Jan says just get in touch with her and you can join the Northeast 4D satellites for a run.
Oh, brilliant. And quickly, let's talk about, before we get into kind of the women's stuff and the stuff that we want to focus on, but talk to us about tomorrow. What's going on? Trip to Wales.
Oh, yes. We're getting up very, very early to get the coaches, a whole load of us 40s on tour. Unfortunately, I didn't do Dublin previously, but we're off to run the Severn Bridge and back, and then off to Barry Island.
And you actually run the actual bridge?
On the actual bridge, I believe. But there's a bit of an incline. I've seen the photos now. No one told us that when we signed up.
Oh my God.
Someone said it was flat. I believe them.
And how many of you are going?
On the coach, I think we've pretty much got a full coach for around about 50 of us.
Amazing.
Traveling 3 different pickups, starting over in Kent at Dartford, then one in Surrey, and then on the M4.
Yeah.
For the last pickup, getting there nice and promptly for about 8:15, I think, in the morning. So I've got time to do all those pre-running parkrun things that you need to do. So we're ready for the off at 9 o'clock.
Amazing. And if anyone does want to join you, they can just head straight down to the parkrun if they're in the area, or over to Barry Island. I'm sure there'll be a sea of pink.
Absolutely, lots of tour t-shirts ready to go with their Wales date on the back already.
Oh, brilliant. Well, exciting times. So tonight, as we said, we've been talking about doing this for a while, and a women's special. And when we say special, it doesn't mean a one-off. We've been, I think, overwhelmed with the response and the comments on the posts I've shared this week, the polls, with just so many topics that people want to talk about and that impact them, and whether that be from finding the right running kit, periods, how that impacts you in your performance, and just actually the products you use, from period pants and all sorts, menopause, how that impacts you. And one that came up loads was safety, actually. But we'll do our best to get into safety properly first. And this is not the first, or this is not the last time we're going to do this podcast. So as a women's special, we will do more and more of them, because I think if there's the appetite and there's the things that we need to talk about, and it isn't just about the women talking about them, actually. I think it's about men engaging in these conversations as well, because we need their support with lots of things, and to raise the awareness and to be aware of the things that do impact us. So, and even, I mean, like just today, I don't know if you guys saw, but Dina Asher-Smith spoke about the fact, or called for more research, because she had period pains this week when she was racing at the, was it the World Championships this week? It was Commonwealth last week, wasn't it? And
Europeans this week.
Europeans, that's it. So, one of the things that we wanted to talk about, I put up a poll earlier this week on Facebook, and which had like, I think 100 or 150 responses, which is amazing, and a whole stream of comments from people. And we're talking about how safe do females or women feel when they're out there running. So what about you guys? How safe do you feel? Or what are your thoughts on that? Mel, should we start with you?
I think when I first started running, I felt a lot safer than I do now.
Right.
I think I lost a bit of confidence during the whole COVID situation started. Once you could start running with people again, I've always done running with someone else, and I kind of lost that confidence to run on my own. But there's lots of things I do. I do go out and run on my own again. I've started to do that a little bit again, but it's knowing where I'm running and the time of day that I choose. I choose that quite carefully.
Right.
And even now still, I'll try and, although Carl and I don't run together because he's much faster than me, we'll perhaps go to the same park to run, our local one at Crane Park, and we'll run in opposite directions so that we'll keep passing each other, so that I know that I've got him to check in with. I think I used to feel very safe in that park until, unfortunately, and then this is very, very rare, but we went to go to do the Crane Park run. It was just before first lockdown, and unfortunately, there'd been an incident in the local flats, and it did all get cordoned off by the police because they were looking for a weapon. So that did frighten me off a bit. And there are teenagers who do drugs in the park and things like that. So I think I'm just very aware of my surroundings, where I'm running, who I'm running with, and the time of day. I think for me is really key.
Yeah, and are there certain times of day that you avoid because of that?
Yes, I wouldn't. Well, it would be too dark to run in that park anyway. So if I ever run once it's dark, I run with somebody, and I make sure that I can be really well seen. So I've got my chest torch. I've got one of those reflective bib things that your phone goes in. Anything so that I can be seen, and I run with people. I do still run with headphones because I've got the bone conductors, so I can hear everything around me. That's partly because I suffer from deafness as well, in one of my ears. But it is. So I would rather, if I'm going to go run in the particular park at Crane Park and I'm running on my own, I will go after sort of 8 o'clock in the morning, because I know all the pairs of dog walkers will be out and around in the park. So I know I will meet lots of people. There'll be people cycling through to get to work and things like that. So I know there's lots of people around. Whereas if I'm running out and around by by houses and things, less worried, because I know I would always just go and run and knock on somebody's door, or I could be heard if I was loud up. But if I'm running in somewhere that's, even just down at the park, that I happily run in, even in the day, I'm a little bit cautious.
Yeah, interesting. And Gemma, how about you? Because you've had you've been.
Yeah, I mean, ages ago, I would say I felt safe completely. Didn't even think about anything happening. But yeah, probably about just over 2 years ago, I was running along the river, my normal route. It was on a Sunday. It was 11 a.m, so not particularly early. There was lots of people around, walkers, runners, cyclists, and I was running along, and I was aware that there was this person slightly ahead of me, just standing there. And as I got closer, it became apparent that this person who was staring me. He was exposing himself and, say, doing other stuff whilst he was exposing himself. And I remember at the time I didn't feel frightened or scared or even threatened. I think because, again, there was quite a lot of people around. But I got home, reported it to the police, had to go in, make a statement. And I think it was probably the next run I did, I suddenly started to get really anxious, going down certain routes where there wasn't that many people, and then start thinking, what if he's there, or what if there's someone else there, and what can I do if someone does approach me? And it did, and I got a little bit frustrated, a little bit kind of angry that this person has now made me something that I really enjoy doing, running, has made it less enjoyable. And then there was like more and more reports of a similar person doing similar things. And I think over the course of about 2 years, it would always, like every few months, it would pop up that this person had been, seen, and things that he'd been doing. And it did escalate to this person then actually going from merely exposing himself to actually using physical contact on a couple of people. And I had to go in and do an identity parade, and he did get caught, and it was great. But it kind of threw me completely. Again, because I think I'm someone that just, I take a lot of things on the chin and just get on with things. Don't let things bother me. But it made me think about, actually, am I keeping myself safe? And funny enough, it was probably, say, before that, it was my husband that was the one who had the sort of concerns for my safety. He'd always say, where are you going? What time are you coming back? Have you got your phone on you? Have you got your alarm on you? And it wasn't really until this particular incident that I started to think that way as well. And I think really, and even now, like if I ever do go running on my own, it is always at the back of my mind. But I would probably say I feel completely safe running because 99.9% of my runs are with other people. I run with you, I run with Mark, I run with Posty, and it just takes that worry out of the way. Brings that enjoyment back.
Do you think that you do more running on your own though if you didn't have that niggle or you hadn't had those experiences?
I don't think so. It's not like, it wasn't like a conscious choice, I need to run with other people because of that. That just kind of evolved from joining the 4D run club. But it definitely, I think, it would definitely probably make my runs a little bit less enjoyable. Because I like to explore, exploring new places and what's down here, and it's great, great being able to do that with you guys. But I'd probably be a little bit more reluctant if I was on my own. And like you say, you just have to think about, the times of day that you run, your routes that you run, and just bringing those factors to help. And
actually, Abby, how do you feel about? Because obviously you're training for London, which is amazing. But those long runs suddenly creep up and they get longer and longer and got to go. Well, I mean, how has it impacted you, or has it, or has it not phased you? And
I kind of find it harder with the heat wave recently. Obviously, trying to get out as early as possible to beat the heat, because I'm terrible in the heat. Like, I just was not made for hot weather. But and I've been trying to get out early. And once I sort of went more like 5 o'clock, and I ran down the Thames path, but it's not sort of like the woodland side of the Thames path, so it's always a bit busier. There's lots of people commuting. But I think I went a bit too early one day, and it was just a bit eerie. And I sort of was running towards, and I just saw a man sort of there, and then I looked again, and he'd like disappeared, but there was nowhere to go, and I just don't know if he was like in the bush or something. Luckily, I then could get out onto a road, but it just unnerved me a bit then. So then I had to go a bit later, but then it's kind of weird timing it when you've got work and like the heat. And luckily now it's a bit cooler outside, to start to go a little bit later. But it's a sort of a weird thing to think we have to think about these things so much. And it's one of those where I guess you always think we shouldn't have to, but also at the same time we do have to sort of be sensible about it, don't you?
And then look, we're not saying that this doesn't impact male runners too, right? Because there are people who have the same anxieties or nervousness, and their families or loved ones, etc. In the same way, Gemma, you were saying that your husband obviously used to kind of go, where are you going and what time? And Sarah Rope has just commented as well, saying that she usually runs early mornings and how often gets so worried. And I know that I always, it's funny actually, I always tell someone what time I'm going. So at the moment I'm with my mum, and I'll be like, oh, I'm going for a run. Even this morning I went for a run. I was like, I'll be back by 8, because I was like, I need someone to know when I'm due back, because then if I haven't come back, I know that she'll call. I mean, God knows what, God forbid ever, but do you know what I mean? It's like,
I do that as well. And then also on Find My Friends, I've got quite a few people on Find My Friends on the iPhone. So I'm like, if I'm going out and I've been longer than I am, at least my housemate knows to check on me, and she'll be like, oh, she's just gone a bit further than usual, or and then like text. But yeah.
And Gemma, and actually Mel, maybe, because obviously you both kind of not lost your confidence, but have had different experiences, so whether that be through COVID and being on your own, and Gemma, obviously the instance you've had. How do you get past those or get your confidence back to go out again after that?
Well, I think for me, running has become such an important part of my life. It was never about losing weight. It was always about just having that me time, that time for me. And it's so good for my mental health. And I kind of refused to give up that. And, I love it so much. And, you're not like, let's be realistic. The chance of us getting knocked over by a car or a bus is probably higher than, getting attacked. But we still go out, but we use our common sense. We use roads, cross the road safely. We don't just walk out in the middle of the street. So, I'm not saying that we're fearing for our lives every time we go for a run, but it's just about making those, really sensible choices, and not just for women, for men too. I mean, I've got an 18-year-old. He started sort of going out, staying out later, and I get so, worried. Oh, is he going to get attacked on the way home? And, you say, well, just be careful. And, so it's just, again, just about making sensible choices.
Yeah.
I think for me, that running with, though I was running with Carl, but not running with Carl, but that thing where I was running a little bit on my own, but in the same vicinity, so that I knew that he was still close by should I need him, or I knew he was going to come across me the other way and would be expecting to cross paths. But I was doing that bit of running on my own. That's helped a little bit with getting back. But we also have, as a family, because my children are no longer teenagers, they're older than that now as well, but we've had that Life 360 app, mainly originally because my daughter wanted to track us. It wasn't us tracking the teenagers. They wanted to know when we were in or coming home from work, so we would cook their dinner. But having that on, they know where we are, they can track where we've been and roughly how long. And even when Carl's out running, if he's doing a long run, because he seems to be prone to injuries and things at times, just knowing and tracking, is he roughly where I expected him to be at that time? Likewise for me, knowing the sort of pace that I run, am I roughly where I said I was going to be? Is there something that's held me up? Has there been a problem? That helps, sort of knowing that they can check on that at any point to see where I am. But I've just found that there's been a little bit more hesitancy and sort of a little bit more verbal abuse towards runners since COVID. And even there was coming out of Crane Park where I run sometimes, is what we call the Smelly Bridge, which is just this horrible little tunnel bridge you have to go under. It's a really, really narrow path, and you just get through to the next bit. And I was running through, a guy coming the other way, really big guy, strong, started walking through and stuff, and he was just really verbally abusive. And he wouldn't have been that way to a man, but it was because I was a runner, a female runner, and I was much smaller than he was. He just felt he could be verbally abusive about me running through, and not stopping and waiting for him to go through. And it was just a power thing.
Yeah. Isn't it funny though that how people react? Because had you been walking through there with a dog, for example, but because you're running, that's suddenly Yeah, and interesting that you mentioned that app actually, Mel, the 360, because Mandy Osborne's just commented as well, saying that her family use the 360 app so they can track her, because she's obviously running in the mornings and the nights, and that's a struggle. And I mean, there's probably lots of technologies. Sarah Opus actually just mentioned, apparently Garmin watches a tracker notification. Do any of you guys use that, or any other? I didn't know that the Garmin did that.
I don't, but I know a lot of my friends use it, the Strava beacon. I think that might be free now.
Yeah, that's free now. So it always used to be on a subscription, but then they've done an update and made it free for all, which is a lot better then, because it's kind of good inclusive feature to keep everyone safe. But I haven't tried it myself, but it looks really good.
Does anyone, I don't know enough about it, but what is the Strava beacon? What does that do? Is it the same? Is it kind of a live tracker that you can now? Because I mean, obviously there are other running apps out there, before I get in trouble. So there are plenty, and I'm sure they've all got functions that you may be able to use. But
yeah, I mean, I haven't used it, but I think from what I know is that you like when you kind of set it up, and then when you go for a run, but you can do it so it will update whoever you want to update, and you can choose how often it sends those updates. So yeah, almost like a bit like how, when you sort of track someone doing a marathon, that kind of thing, so they can see where you are.
Well, that's brilliant, and I think that's brilliant that they've made that free as well, because you want to encourage people to get out there, right? We want people to be out there exercising, running. We know how good it is for us physically, mentally, and all of those things. And actually, we can make people feel a bit safer by those things. And I mean, I know that I think it's my Apple Watch does it, that if you fall, it automatically starts to contact people on your emergency list, because it tracks that you've kind of taken a fall. So
I mean, we moan, don't we, about the reliance on technology, but actually it can be amazing.
Yeah. And I think you can do something similar with like an iPhone as well. I don't know, I've not done it, but I've heard people talking about it recently, about if you fall and if it goes to a certain angle, then it registers you fall, and it triggers a thing to whoever you've got in your contacts for that. But I think that must be linked with the watch. I've got a Garmin watch rather than an Apple. I used to have an Apple, but I get to try.
Yeah, I've got both. I think we should. Well, I don't want to fall over and try it, but if anyone has got experience in them or can tell us a bit more about how they work, please do comment and let us know. And if you've had any experiences where they've kind of had to come into play as well, where people have been notified, and how that works. And I mean, look, we've been in the height of summer for the last kind of couple of months, and we've had a great summer. I mean, how you look at it, but light mornings, light evenings. It's not going to be long. We're heading towards the end of August now. It's not going to be long before those dark nights. You can already see it, kind of feel it coming.
It's closing in.
Yeah, it is. And do you guys do anything differently in the summer versus the winter? Is there anything you change in terms of your running, your training to?
Yeah, I mean, like I'll often, especially when I used to run on my own, for example, I wouldn't run along the river, in the dark. One, you can't see anything anyway. Also, it's very isolated. But yeah, so often might change my running routes, and just using the lights. I quite like the chest lights, making sure you're running with other people, all those kind of things.
Yeah. How about you guys, Mel?
Yeah, I mean, I won't run anywhere in the dark that I haven't run the same place already and checked it out in daylight anyway. So that's just generally a good thing to do, that if you are going to run anywhere that's, when it's getting darker. So, even just where there are problems with the pavement, or there might be tree stumps, or where those hazards might be, if you've actually run that route in daylight before, you're going to be much more aware of your surroundings and the things to note as you go along as well. And it just, I think, gives me a little bit more confidence if I know where I am. But I will change the sort of gear that I'm wearing as well. I always have something that's reflective that's on. And I always carry as well, just in case, always carry my credit card and a £5 note in case something happens to me, so I can always get back home or pop in somewhere for some help. But I think I tend to run more around the streets if I'm running in the dark in the evenings. But I will tend to be a morning person. So the one thing, when things first start to get darker at night, especially when the hour changes in October, you do get that bit of where it's lighter again in the morning early, just for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would tend to go out in the morning where I can, and still try to run in the light.
Yeah. And guys, commenting, thank you for all the comments that are coming in. We can see them, and people talking about what they do or what they won't do. Like Penny's just said that she won't run along the canal on her own. And that's really interesting, because I remember when I first started running, and I live down by the river, and it's taken me a while to grow in confidence with running, because when I first started, I basically started running. For those that don't know, I got a place for London Marathon, and because it was a bucket list thing that I'd always said I wanted to do. I couldn't run. I hadn't run since I was at school, and I was an okay runner at school. I could do cross country, and I was always better at kind of the 1500 meters and stuff. And then I basically turned up to a 4D satellite group and went, I've got a place for London. And he went, oh yeah, you'll be fine, as he does. I was like, I can't run. I've never run. But I used to run down by the river on my own all the time, because for me it was a place where I was like, oh, I can just go. I'm not going to be embarrassed by the roads and have people beeping at me or hooting or shouting stuff. Or if I need to walk, it's funny, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with walking. I mean, who cares if you walk, crawl, run? Like, it just doesn't matter. But I used to go down there because actually it was a place where I was like, oh, I can just go and do my own thing. I can turn at a certain point. It doesn't matter if I'm a mile, 2 miles out. It's easy to track your distance, isn't it? Like how far you're going out and back. But there's a weird thing. The more I've realised, the more I run, the more aware I become of my surroundings. And now actually, I can't imagine running down by the river on my own, even in the middle of the day. Not because I've had any bad experience, but just because I was talking about it just, I was like, well, where would I come off on my usual route if I was on my own? And not just because if I saw someone, but what if you get injured? How far is it from you being able to walk to somewhere, or God forbid, but an ambulance being able to get you? All things that we have to consider as runners. And I mean, women in particular. And I mean, toilets en route, that's another one that you've got to think about, haven't you?
Men as well, especially as they get older, that bladder calls quite frequently. Yeah. That's not just a women thing.
And how, when you guys are out running, I mean, I'm so lucky. You see loads of walkers and runners and stuff. But Mel, obviously you mentioned that you've had a bad experience with that person in that tunnel. But generally, because I mean, Scott Steele mentioned on the poll the other day, which I thought was really interesting. He said that he used to always say hello to people when he was out running. So he'd smile and nod and say hello. And but he stopped doing that because of how he's really aware of how uncomfortable that could make people feel, and he doesn't want to he's so conscious about making people feel that way. How do you guys feel about that? If people say hello, don't? Because personally, I love if I'm out for a run and there's a runner that's either coming behind me that goes morning, and just so you know, then he's fast, or when you see them, and that actually really upset me when I read that. I thought, God, why? Don't not say hello. But I just thought, actually, how do you guys feel about that? Because everyone's different. I mean, mine's just one opinion, but
I like it. And it was really interesting when I was doing my marathon training and stuff. I noticed that the runners around Bushy Park tended to be more friendly and say hello compared to Richmond Park, where they were more serious. I tended to get more hellos, and then me and my friend as we were running around, we were actually counting how many people said hello and how many didn't. It was just one of those ways to sort of while away the boredom of the marathon distance, as well, when you're doing those sort of long runs. But it's nice when you come across other runners and to say good morning and stuff and put a smile on their face. I think there's far too much of everyone keeping to the spell, especially running around in London as well. It's nice to have that friendly smile, but I think it's about how you approach it. If you're smiling first at somebody and then say good morning, I think that's less threatening than hearing from somebody who comes up behind you. I think that could be more worrying. You suddenly hear a voice on your shoulder. I think that they're quite different experiences.
And James Henderson on YouTube just commented, actually saying that he's changed up his route when catching up with a solo woman runner, so that she didn't think he was following her. And I mean, it must be really hard for the majority of amazing people out there, and guys as well, that are out running, that aren't a threat to anyone, because what goes through their mind. And how do you feel actually if you see someone cross the road? And Gemma, I know you've got sons. Is there any advice you've ever given them when they're walking home either late at night?
I have actually had this conversation. I've had that conversation with them, that it's some people, just like you say, everyone feels very differently. Just because you are fine with things doesn't mean other people are. And just being mindful, and if you are walking home and there's even like a couple of girls in front, or someone on their own, doesn't have to be a girl, could be anyone, they might be feeling quite vulnerable. So maybe just changing route, walking to the other side of the road, keeping back a little bit, just so that other person's not feeling anxious, because you don't know how they're feeling at all. You don't know what's going on in people's lives, what experiences they've had. Just mindful of others. But yeah, going back to how I am with other people out running, I love it when a runner says hello to me and gives away. I know when we've been out running and we've said good morning to other runners, we get a little bit disappointed when they don't smile back. It's like, oh.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? You almost expect it based on how you feel. So I'm like, I love people saying hello, or smiling. And I remember, like I said, when I first started running, I'll never forget this. I went down by the river to do my long run because it was just the easiest way of me going out for 8 miles and then turning back, or 6 miles and whatever it was. And I remember seeing this guy, he came past me and he was like super speedy, and or what I thought was super speedy at the time. I reckon I could catch him now, but years later I'd have him. But he came flying past and he said morning, and off he went. Anyway, I don't know how far he must have gone, and I kind of turned at my turning point, and he came back. He was obviously coming back the same way, so probably doing something similar. And as he kind of caught up with me again, he was like, "Oh, you okay?" And I was struggling at that point. I was kind of like, "Oh my God, I'm 12 miles into this run. How am I going to get the other 4 miles home?" And he went, "Come on." He went, "You'll be fine." He was like, "You can do it." He said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm training for London." And he kind of ran with me, and he was just chatting. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. I couldn't tell you what he spoke to me about, but he was just chatting away, going, "Oh, it's amazing, and you love it," and blah blah blah. And then I suddenly got to kind of like the next road bit where I was going to cross, and he went, "Good luck with it," and he turned back, and I thought, God, how lovely. He was just a fellow runner out running, and he just was like, "Oh, she's struggling. If I just run that extra," the road wasn't too far, and he probably just thought, if I just run that bit with her and give her that confidence that she can do it. And I've never seen him again, and I wish I had to say thank you. But isn't it funny that could? But I also appreciate that could really freak a lot of people out, because you'd start to panic and worry. It's kind of like there's no right and wrong, is there? There's no winning with a lot of this.
No. I do find a lot of the time that you can tell when it's like a genuine like hello, like people get scared. I think you can, with like that, when someone's sort of like intentions are there. I think you can kind of tell when it is just people being friendly. But I love it when people say hello. What I've noticed though is a big difference on like location, because I've been spending a lot more time recently where my parents live, where I grew up in Worcestershire, compared to London. I run down the Thames path and everyone's sort of like head down, don't like look up and everything. And then I've been doing a lot of long runs back where my parents live, and I literally have had like conversations with everyone I've ran past. And it's just, the difference is crazy. But I always think it's nice. It just gives you a little boost as well, especially like you said, when you're struggling, if someone just gives you sometimes even a little look, like if you run past another runner, I quite like it when it's raining and it's like hammering it down and you just look at each other like, what are we doing? But it just gives you that little boost to sort of carry on with your run.
Definitely.
You're right.
And most people out there have got good intentions, and they're lovely. I mean, I had another incident. I honestly have so many incidents along that river. I had another incident, and I was running along, and there was these two boys, probably about 16, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!" And I could see them in the distance. Oh no, I'd ran past them, and then on my way back, I could see they'd stopped, and I thought, "Oh, I've got to run past them again." And I thought, "Oh, they're gonna say something. They're gonna shout some sort of verbal abuse at me." I thought, just head down, just keep going. I got close, and they were still staring at me. I was like, "Oh, here we go." And as I sort of got right up to them, they said, "Excuse me, can you help us get past the geese?" And they were so frightened on their bikes that they couldn't get past the geese. So I had to sort of stand there like, in front of the geese so they could get through. And, there's me going from, "Oh, no, they're going to say something horrible." And actually, they were really nice.
Funny, isn't it, how those things happen? I can't believe we've been going for 35 minutes. Should we do the lightning round? Because I know we've got loads of other stuff that we want to talk about. There's some brilliant topics which we'll get into. But Mel, tonight, is the lightning round. And Gemma is their first time, because, poor Abby had to do it with me last time, where I was like literally firing stuff at her. So, but Toby is in the background running all of our tech for us. So big shout out and thank you to Toby for sitting in the background, because we wouldn't know what to do about that. But can you run the titles for the lightning round and hand it over? So off you go.
Hi, Gemma. So it's just you and me now. So lightning round. Don't worry, you will know all the answers to all of these questions that I'm going to throw at you. And just first thing that comes to your mind when I ask it. Okay. Some will be familiar if you've been watching the show before, but we've got a few that have got a little bit more of a female orientation about them. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Pre-race breakfast.
Peanut butter on toast.
Okay. Favorite race or distance?
10 miler.
Okay. Normal pants or running pants?
Normal pants.
Female running icon?
Oh, Jasmine Paris. She did so I know this is the lightning round, but you need to know this. She did the spine race, and she's still the record holder there. I think she smashed it by like 12 hours in her time doing it. So she was the first female and the first overall, and she did it whilst expressing breast milk.
Oh, amazing. Oh, yes, I remember.
Yeah.
Remember that. Post-race celebration drink, G&T or Prosecco?
Oh, probably neither. I'd have to go for a Guinness.
Okay, fair enough. Race nutrition, gels or real food?
Real food.
Shorts or skort?
Shorts.
Favourite brand of running bra?
Probably my Nike one. So Nike.
Okay. Running with or without headphones?
Without.
And head torch or chest torch?
Chest torch.
What's your running ambition?
Or probably at the moment to do the alphabet challenge park run.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gemma.
Thank
That's
you
the end of the lightning round. Thank you.
Oh my God, they were brilliant, those questions.
Very good.
Can I just ask, because we're obviously all at different life stages, actually, just touched on something really interesting about Jasmine Paris and running whilst expressing milk. And I don't have children, but Mel and Gemma, you guys have got children, and were you running pre-children, post-children actually is really interesting. And have you had any of those experiences where you've had to stop to express or to feed? And I'm fascinated by that actually, and I'm sure there's lots of runners out there that have had those moments.
Not with running, no, because I didn't come back. Well, I say back to running. I hadn't run when I came and started running, and I did my first park run when I was 44. So I was well past having had my children and things by then, but and I hadn't run since 1983 before that, and that was something like the 1500 meters at school. So no, I haven't had that experience with it linked with running, but in other areas, yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't take up running till after I had the children. I probably just finished breastfeeding my youngest, so I didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, so there's other things that with your whole bladder and things like that you have to end with.
Did that change for you after you had children, like things like your bladder, and have you had to be more conscious of them when you first started running as well? Because I guess your confidence kind of grows the more you run, and you learn more about your body, as we all probably do. But yeah, as a woman, when you've been through those things, did you have to really?
I do remember I was doing a 10K race once, and it kind of was at the sort of end of the race, and I thought I'm on for a good time here, and I kind of like went for it, and at the same time there was stuff going down there that was like going for it as well, and I thought, well, I can't stop, and yeah, it is something you kind of do have to think about.
Yeah,
I suffer really badly with that, and even park runs, if I do a sprint at the end and overdo things and start to retch, as soon as I start to retch, if I'm retching here, I can't control anywhere else. And it's, or if you try to do any sprints at interval training, it's an absolute nightmare for me, because the minute you start to do anything fast, then your bladder or mine goes into action. And then you're left in a situation where you've got all those other intervals to do, and that can obviously, you're damp, and that causes chafing. So it can be quite uncomfortable, and hence why I've gone to running more in skorts for less embarrassment at the end of running or whatever I'm doing, because at least the nice little flap over the top covers what may or may not be happening down below.
Yeah. And how does has it ever stopped you from wanting to go out or going out, the fear of those things happening? Or?
I think that kind of not sprinting at the end of parkrun, not trying to run too fast in case I think it's put mentally a block on trying to do anything speedy.
Right.
Because I'm worried about that. I'm worried about the embarrassment of it. Not so much embarrassing myself, but when I go to parkrun, when I've been doing it a lot, my daughter was doing Duke of Edinburgh's award. Mm-hmm. So she was always on the funnel at the end. She was doing the letters. So she would have to see mum come in at that, or see mum on the funnel as I went through, because we have a big double funnel system at Bushy. So it's not just a case of arrive. So I'd have to have something. Carl would be great. He'd throw me a jacket or something to tie around my waist till I got scorts. But it was, you know, and you then had that long walk of shame around the funnel at Bushy, having, you know, wet yourself because you've run.
Yeah, gosh, so many things, like the impact that these things have on your body that people just don't realise. And yeah, like I said at the top, we won't get into today is menopause properly, because I think we're going to do that. We're going to cover that as a proper another session, because I think there's so much that we can talk about that. But addicted to running is actually just said, do you avoid running when on your period or carry on as normal? I really struggle with sessions that only easy run and don't race. Does anyone else? And I mean, Gemma will know this, which is, so I personally, I usually try to carry on unless I'm in pain. I've got period pains or I'm not feeling good, right? Because we've got to listen to our bodies. As a coach, I would always say to people, listen to your body. It's okay. Missing one run, running easier on one is not gonna change anything in the long run, right? We've got to look after ourselves physically, mentally is the most important. But I'll try not to let it impact me massively. But mentally it can. Like I woke up Edinburgh Marathon morning having trained really hard for it. And I remember having a conversation at the end of our satellite group one week with Gemma and the postie actually, and a few others, and we were talking about the fact that I was like, oh my God, my biggest fear is like, what if I come on my period? How's that going to impact me? Because I can get quite bad hormone headaches. And I was like, oh my God, anyway, was fine. Woke up that morning in this hotel in Edinburgh, came on my period and messaged Gemma and went, oh my God, my worst nightmare's just happened. And she was just like, it's fine, just don't worry. And I was like, I've just got to get on with it. But it's just stuff like that when you're away from home, you've got this milestone that you've worked so hard towards. And honestly, I've never, and it was really funny because I ran the first 11 miles with Gemma. And I went, right, you go, because Gemma was flying, let's just be very clear, like on form and just like in her stride. And she's like, you were right. I was like, yeah, I've got this awful headache coming. I don't want to slow you down. I was like, I'll be fine. But I do struggle, but I do try to carry on, because I think I don't want to let it stop me, because I'm a bit stubborn. I'm like, well, why as a woman have I got to let these things? But I am also a massive believer of you have to listen to your body. Yeah, how about you guys? What do you do? Do you carry on? Do you ease off those days?
Yeah. I mean, I find for me, I don't suffer too bad pain-wise, but I find for me about sort of 3 days before I come on, I'm exhausted. I just have this massive dip, and I can, you know, if I'm ever doing like a club session, it's when I really don't want to do it. It's usually think, oh, I'm going to come on soon. And actually, when I do come on, I'm not as bad in terms of tiredness, but equally heady, especially between days 2 to 4, and like to the point where I've thrown all sorts of products. You know, I've done tampons, sanitary towels, tried moon cups, and I will leak, you know, because I get that flooding, and it's not great. And like you were saying, Mel, it's a whole other host of kind of chafing when you've got a sanitary towel there. It's not fun. I had a similar thing to you, Sabrina, in Brighton, where I sort of went down. I wasn't due on, and I came on early, and I was like, oh no. But you can't. It is what it is, you know. We've had periods for a long time, and we kind of have to deal with them. I was lucky with Edinburgh because I'd come on early again, but it meant I'd sort of finished or was finishing sort of on the day of the race. But yeah, like you say, a little bit stubborn as well. What else can you do?
Yeah,
I'm the same as you, I think. Try and plan not too much long runs when I know it's going to be bad, but sometimes you just kind of like don't let it defeat you. And I'm like, Joe, what, sod it, I'm going to go out. I'll just put black leggings on and off we go.
Yeah.
And just deal with it. But
I mean, a few years ago, because I know we're not talking about menopause
No,
now.
no.
I had obviously that went through for me from lockdown, but before when I first started running at 44, obviously I was still having periods and things then, but I suffer a lot, or did when I was on the second day, with like really bad nausea, really bad nausea during my period. So I would do my best with it, but sometimes I would just feel so sick and a bit of sort of vertigo and imbalance. I wouldn't be able to run because I literally would not be able to move around without literally sort of wanting to throw up. But also, like you said about the chafing, you know, it's do you go for a pad, do you go for a tampon? If you get your string caught in the wrong place in your pants, you know, it can really irritate on a run. And then you've got to know where the toilets are, particularly if you're doing a long run, then, so that if you can sort yourself out, and where do you carry spare products, things like that. Free train vest, great for a single tampon.
Brilliant.
Shout out to Free Train for thinking about the women. And Karen Lumley. And by the way, everybody that's commenting stuff, thank you for your openness and your honesty, because this kind of transparency will only help everyone, right? And
You need to talk about it more.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And yeah, Karen's just said that she's okay in her period, gets a bit backache, but it's manageable. And actually, Gemma, she's experiencing the same things as you, and Mel as well. She said that she's had an incident dribbled at the south end half every time she stopped to walk. So it happens to all of us. And I think that it's funny actually, because I never hear men comment on it, which rightfully so they don't, but because they don't have that firsthand. But to your point, Abby, like black leggings and stuff, I run in black all the time. I mean, I always wear black shorts or black leggings. I don't think I own anything of another colour, but yeah, you do have to think about those things. And actually, we had Mandy actually has just said that she's perimeno and running helps with her cramps, which is amazing. But it triggers flooding, so it's catch-22. And she's mentioned Moddy Body have made some period knickers with humour, which are amazing for no pad and minimal chafing. We actually had an email from a lady called Claire as well this week, who asked the same thing, which was, have any of us tried period pants and our thoughts on those? And I haven't, because I can't get my head around it. But I am, in the name of research for this show, going to try them, because I'm actually really curious around how do they...
So I've tried them, but not for periods, because I've got the ones for the stress incontinence as well. So I did Run Fest Run last summer, and I chatted to the lady at BP3. They also have the stand up at the running show, so I went to her to get some more, and I found that those are really helpful, because at least you've not got the embarrassment. If you do have a leak, you've got that it's caught in it. You're not it takes the majority of the dampness away, because just like wearing a pad, but the better for the environment. You just need to then hand wash them out afterwards. And a lot of my daughter's friends are starting to use those kind of things, because they really want to think about the environment as well. And I've got runner friends who are quite a bit younger than me, who are using those as well as also the sort of reusable pads and things, because they want to think about the environment as well. But BP3, I can, from personal experience, they've been good.
Is that the brand name, Mel? BP3?
BP3, yeah. I can't remember what it stands for, but basically the lady who designed them is a runner.
Right.
They do a sporty version, so they've got no visible, so you don't get a visible pant line as well. And she designed them initially thinking about her teenage daughters, but also because she ran, and because of that leap from menopause and getting that thing between the two to try and support ladies running.
Yeah. Amazing.
I'd be interested to try that. I think I'm a little bit frightened at the moment. I have got a pair of period pants, but I'll wear it with my towel, and I still leak through with that, but I think it's for a light. I think I need a more of a heavy flow period pant, so I'd be interested to try that,
because I think they do them for different kind of flows, from light through to heavier, and different shapes and stuff. And I think also they're becoming a lot more accessible. So which is where I think people will start to try them more, because I think, I mean, originally when they came out, you were looking at kind of 20, 30 quid for a pair of knickers, which is a lot of money. And we talk about running being for everybody and accessible because we want people to be able to get out there, right? And we say you can get out, you've just got a pair of trainers and go out on the roads and whatever. But when you have to start thinking about these things and the kit that you need for, as a woman, for certain times of the month and how you're feeling, and to think it can become expensive. So I know that Primark and Uniqlo are actually doing their versions of them now as well. So hopefully, and I think M&S do as well. So if anybody has got experience in those, please post them on the Facebook group, because on the 40 Runs running community, because I think we can all benefit and learn from those things. And Modibody and obviously BP3 are two that we've had mentioned, or people have had experiences of. But if you've got experience of any other, then do let us know about those as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same you're saying about the sort of equipment, just go out with a pair of running shoes and shorts or whatever. But, you know, as a larger chested lady as well, you've got all the whole thing with the running bras as well. Another piece of equipment that you need to buy to fully support your breasts, because otherwise actually they will have a lot of movement when running, and you can actually do a lot of damage to the tissue if they're not properly supported.
Yeah, there was an interesting thread about that actually this week, wasn't there, on the Facebook group, which was really asking about, I think, getting chafing with a certain bra. And have you got any advice, or is there anything you've used that's helped with that? Because I think people were talking about Body Glide and
I use a underwear bra. I did their first underwear bra that they had, and that was a big game changer for me. But they've now done the one that you can fasten at the back as well. So you're not having to try and pull it on, because the worst thing about running bras usually is you can get into them, but it's very difficult after a run. You're sweaty, you need help, or cutting out of them sometimes. But I would say to people, particularly the area that often chafes, is that bit where you do the hooks up. Right. And often it's if you forget to, and I've done it myself, just to flip back over like the label that's over, that then covers and stops those hooks from actually rubbing on your back. But the other thing you could do is if you just get a little bit of fleece or felt or something and just stitch it over that bit, so you've got a little bit of a flap that sits over that, and that will stop that chafing of the hooks.
Great advice there from Mel's knitting room. We're going to tell Bushy now, when next time you're there and volunteering and want bits of fleece from you, they're going to be like, I'll give me a bit of fleece for my running bra. Yeah, really good advice. And yeah, where do you go? Do you go to different places for your running? Because obviously we know that lots of the high street places that do underwear do sports clothing and equipment too. Do you trust those places as a woman when you know the need is slightly different, or do you guys head to more specialist places for your kit?
I think I went with underwear because I'd had the good experience with the underwear pants when I did my very first half marathon. I treated myself to a pair, and I just had good experience with them as customer feedback. And it was because it was set up by runners to solve a problem that they were having. It happened to be men who were having chafing around their sort of inner thighs and that area, and so they designed things that suited them, and then they got on board with doing things for women as well. So I kind of trust their brand because of it's coming from runners who've experienced a problem and then solved a problem, rather than somebody who's just wanting to cash in for the sake or jump on a bandwagon.
I try and stick to, like, so I've got a Nike running bra that I've had it for ages. I'm sure I need a new one, but because I know it works and it doesn't chafe, I try and just get the same one. Because I've spent quite a lot of money on other running bras, and I find, I get the chafing kind of in the middle there. And I've got one bra, and I think it's okay for a 5K run, but anything beyond that, it just starts chafing. So I know I can't wear that on my long runs. But I just try and stick to a bit of trial and error. I'll generally shop anywhere, but when I find something that I like, I tend to wear it to death. As I think Danny from the group gets annoyed with. All threadbare, my shorts and all sorts.
I'm the same as you though. I think I've got two sports bras are on a rotation. I've had them for far too long, but they're fine. So I'm just like, every time I try something new, it's just never good. So
And
it's finding something that works for you though, isn't it? Because we're all individual, and all, you know, I think even, you know, the manufacturers of bras, you know, they one of them does me like they say 63 different sizes, because by the time you take the cup size and your back size and under, you know, you do all the different measurements, everything is very different for everybody, and what's comfortable for one person isn't for another. So you might find a brand, and I say, you know, for me underwear really, really works, but for other people it doesn't. They, you know, different slightly different style or different fabric works better for them, because, you know, our skin might be different, any allergies we have, things like that.
Yeah, interesting. Abby, have you bought anything for training that you've kind of just had to, that you thought was going to be amazing and life changing in terms of kit for marathon, and then you've just gone, that's just not going to work?
I don't think, not massively, to be honest. I buy quite a lot of stuff anyway. I think recently the most thing I bought, that was more because I got excited when they brought out the London Marathon jackets, the rainproof ones. I bought one of those thinking, this is great. Every time it rains, I'm going to go out. Every time I've gone out in the rain, I've just taken it off, because then you're running just sort of feeling like a chicken in a bag, overheating in the rain. But I just wanted to buy it because it was London Marathon, and I just got a bit excited when you think you need all the kit.
Yeah.
But in theory, I probably didn't really need it. Don't wear it, but...
Yeah. As a woman, this is for all of you actually, what's the one bit of kit that you think you need to get properly fitted or invest in a bit that you can, there's bits that you can kind of scrimp on, isn't there? Or save your pennies on, right? We know things are expensive, times are tough out there, and we imagine they're going to get tougher, right? So what's the one bit of kit as a woman you feel like go and invest in or think about?
My bra.
Yeah.
My bra, but I know that's because I'm a larger busted lady. I can't, if they're not supported properly, I cannot run. That puts me in pain, and yeah, so I wouldn't be able to run at all. Everything else, I can run in a cheap vest, I can run in cheap shorts, but for me, if I didn't have a proper fitting running sports bra, that would restrict my ability to run.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Mel. I think I'm not particularly big chested, but I think regardless of your size, they need supporting, and it's worth investing in a decent running bra. And I think all those, like your bra, your knickers and your socks, all those things that are kind of that close on your skin. Yeah, you need a decent bit of kit, but socks you can get fairly cheap. You know, the running pants or sports pants you can get fairly cheap, but running bras definitely worth the investment.
Yeah. What about you?
Leggings. I'm always leggings, I think, because I've went through so many sort of cheaper ones and I couldn't get on with, and you go for a run and I spend more time running, like pulling them up, than actually running and having to keep stopping. It's just like then gets a mental thing in your brain where you're just thinking about your leggings falling down rather than your run. So I've worked out like the Lululemon ones are best for me, and I'm like, they're really quite expensive, but it just means I can go out and run and not have to think about it. And also the pockets is really handy with stuff like sort of when you're on your period as well. They've got really long pockets in the sides, so it means you can carry stuff with you, which is quite good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I spent ages my first pair of running leggings, I think, was from M&S. I don't know how I got to M&S, but they were great, and I think I've still got them because I can't bear to throw them away, because I think I did all my original London Marathon training in them before it got cancelled for lockdown. But yeah, a decent pair of leggings that fit right, snug, that if you're feeling, they'll just make you feel better. And pockets in them is a really important thing. But I can't believe we're coming up to an hour, which is incredible, and I could carry on talking. And thank you guys for being so open and honest. And as we said, this is not the only time we're going to do this, because there are so many topics that we want to come back and talk about and delve into. And if there are things that you want us to talk about, because I think Penny said it, and you said, Mel, you said it, that we need to talk about these things so much more, because we need for women to know that it's okay, and there are platforms where we can talk about these things really openly and really honestly. There's no shame in any of these things. I think Serena Williams in tennis said it recently. She was like, wearing white in tennis is like so uncomfortable, right? It's just mental that they've still got to go onto a court wearing white when you're on your period. But athletes at all levels and runners at all levels are feeling the same things that you will be or that we will be. So it's super important that we talk about these things and we have an open platform to do so. Please do continue to email in at, I haven't done this all show and I learnt it.
Go on.
Show@.com. I can't believe I haven't mentioned that in 59 minutes. I'm sorry, guys, but I've got it in there and I got it right. Any thoughts on topics, questions that you've got that you want to answer, the guys will ping them over to us and or we'll support them or answer them on future shows as well, and next time there's email specials and stuff. So just before we finish up, huge thank you to Toby, who's been sat in the background. Running all tech and titles. So open, like I said, honest, and for coming on tonight and giving you time. I know you've all got an early start tomorrow with the trip to Wales. So I imagine it's dinner in bed for you. And I think I just wanted to end on actually this. We spoke a lot about safety and running and feeling comfortable running alone and all sorts of stuff. This community is nearly, our Facebook community is nearly at 10,000 people. I think, how many are we to go, Mel? Or something now?
I think it's 18, Chris was saying earlier. So we've got to recruit 18 down on Barry Island tomorrow at the 7-part run.
Yeah. So anyone that is out tomorrow in Wales or over this weekend, we are expecting to hit the 10,000 very, very soon. But on that point, I think it's important to say that the community is there for all of us. It's not for one or a few. And one of the amazing things this week was that when I put that poll in that post, there were people that I've never spoken to before, but that were engaging in it and getting involved. And I think if you are in an area where you want people, especially as we get into those darker nights and stuff, to go out and run with, post on there, just, I'm in this area, is there anyone else there that's running or wants to run together? Because you'll always find it's amazing at the weekend, in a park run in this area, who appears, and people are, oh, I'm going to be there, or I live by there. So there are people out there. There are the satellite groups. There are loads of social runs, and obviously at the races, please do come and say hello to any of us or any 40s that you see out there, because we'd love to chat to you. And before we go, just remember that you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Facebook group, as we've said, but also the podcast can be downloaded on all of the usual providers, so Spotify, Amazon, Apple. So please do, if you've missed an episode or this episode in particular, please do share it and get people to listen in. So I think that's it from us tonight. The boys will be back as per usual next week. Chris is back from holiday. And they have, as I said at the top of the show, got mental health expert and psychoanalyst Gary Lane, who's going to be talking all things mental health and how that impacts your running, which I think is going to be brilliant, fascinating, and something that we really need to, as we always do and talk about and say, that we need to talk about those things more. So if you've got questions or things that you want to talk about or want them to get answered, please do email in to longrunshow@gmail.com. And we will see you all soon. Thank you very much. Run the titles, Toby.